structure and style of various news stories. Objectives of the lesson: to understand the structure of various news stories, to know where the inverted pyramid structure style is used, to get an idea on comment oriented pieces in newspapers, to study the alternative story forms are Charticles, to learn the importance of op-ed. By now, we know that the activity of collecting, compiling and delivering authentic information is journalism. Since readers spend money and time to read the information we deliver, they expect us to give them fact-based, useful news for either information, sake or entertainment purpose. The package of news in newspaper contains not only news, opinion, observation and commentary are also part of this package. In this lesson, we are going to look at the structure of various news stories we find in newspapers. In a 2006 book, British journalist Christopher Booker outlined 7 basic plots for writing, but reporters should not be too conscious about the structure and style. If you try to fit in the information you collected in one of these template-like plots, it may adversely impact the natural flow and creative component. Having said that, I would suggest you to have a basic idea of various types of news stories and their basic structures. In addition to photographs, caricatures, cartoons, charts and diagrams, we find 9 types of news stories in newspapers. They are straight news, features, articles, backgrounders, personality profiles, interviews, editorials, columns and charticles. Straight news. General readers buy newspapers primarily to know the latest developments in the society. To satiate readers' news appetite, newspapers publish solid information on the front page. This information is called straight news. It is a matter of fact reporting without any comment or interpretation. There are 2 kinds of straight news: 1 hard news and 2 soft news. As we discussed in previous lessons, hard news relates to the most recent events or incidents considered to be of general, local, regional, national or international significance. Hard news is typically used to refer to topics that are usually timely, important and consequential, such as politics, international affairs and business news. By contrast, soft news usually centers on the lives of individuals and has little, if any, perceived urgency. Soft news topics include entertainment, celebrity and lifestyle news. However, nowadays newsrooms are deriving soft news from hard news to attract the reader's attention or to create an impact. For instance, let us imagine that 10 persons lost their lives in a road accident. It makes a hard news. If a 5-year-old girl of the family is the lone survivor in the accident, there can be another story explaining how miraculously the baby survived and how inconsolable she is and how she moved the onlookers with her search for mother. This particular story is called soft story. News editors are in the habit of presenting soft news in a box item. Now, articles. To be precise, a step upward of the straight news is an article, a kind of elaboration for the day's news. Newspaper articles serve the purpose of informing the readers of a particular event or issue in detail. It is pretty much serious and factual information that people need to know. Recollect the road accident I have mentioned as an example for straight news. You can present various dimensions of the particular accident by talking to various sources and by quoting them in your story. A news article is time sensitive and of immediate interest. Accidents, election results, crime reports, a product launch, a court verdict, and a medical report on COVID-19's latest mutation can be called as articles. While the straight news most of the time get page 1 priority, news articles are accommodated in inside pages. Now features. Features also carry the same features of articles. However, features take the readers a step forward to supply more details. It is like an in-depth story, which may be coupled with data and commentary. A feature is an opportunity for reporters or experts to take more than a superficial look at something. It explores the background to an issue or the character of the person behind a news event. The inverted pyramid structure is not applicable to feature because it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If a feature is cut from the back, it will leave the story hanging in the air and leave the reader wondering where the rest of it has gone. A feature is rather like a necklace, and each piece of the story is like a cluster of beads. Just as a necklace would not look attractive if the biggest bead was put on first, followed by the next biggest, down to the smallest, so the parts of a feature do not seem right when they are written as mini inverted pyramids. Now, backgrounders. Another journalistic form that can't take the inverted pyramid structure is backgrounders. These kind of stories act as supplements to the main straight news of the day. They are full of statistics and data, aiming at giving a perspective to readers. Generally, a reporter need not worry much about these backgrounders, as the media house's library or morgue supplies the material, and most of the time desk people would make use of them without bothering reporters. When a major accident happens, the chief of bureau or the editor wouldn't trouble the reporter to deal with the backgrounder. They usually have a chronological order. This is an especially useful way of telling stories about sequences of events rather than single event. In the era of social media, periodicals started focusing on features and backgrounders to attract readers. Many old newspapers are carrying backgrounders under headlines "The Day in the History" or "From the History" or "Archives." They publish a thumbnail of the front page of the newspaper exactly 100 years ago to make readers revisit history. Quoting or mentioning about persons in a straight news story or feature or an article is different, and making a profile of them depending on their importance is different. For example, Manipur's Mirabai Chanu won a silver medal in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics in 49 kgs weightlifting on the very first day of the events. A straight news would talk about how she achieved the feat by talking about the event, the competition, and our athletes' skill to make it to the podium finish. Hailing from a poor family, Mirabai Chanu put a lot of hard work to make many sacrifices to clinch a silver in the prestigious Olympics. Being a sports reporter, you may like to write a personality profile of the athlete. Answers to questions like how she took up weightlifting, what are the hurdles she had to cross, who helped her to go for foreign training, how she coped with the pandemic, and how she stayed away from the family for months together during her preparation would be part of your personality profile. The inverted pyramid style can be applied to this type of writing. The most interesting facts of Mirabai Chanu can be mentioned on the top of the story, and the least important are oft-repeated facts like her hobbies, interests may be kept at the end. Interviews. As the news manual puts it, an interview is a special kind of conversation. It is a conversation between a journalist and a person who has facts or opinions which are likely to be newsworthy. As in any conversation, you and the person you are talking to will both be involved in speaking and in listening. The purpose of the interview is to carefully listen to what the other person has to say and to make sure that you understand what he or she is saying. Since we discussed the techniques involved in an interview in previous lessons, let us confine to the structure of reporting interviews. The material collected through interviews can be presented in two forms. The first one is question and answer form. It is very easy to write the gist of the interview as the lead and put question and answers in a meaningful way. The real talent of a person lies in collecting the information. The second type of presentation is the narrative form. It gives ample scope for a reporter to present his writing skills. Running an interview in a logical and meaningful form is vital. You can use direct quotes extensively to run the story in an interesting way with a logical flow. The inverted pyramid method can be used in this kind of writing too. The best part is for features, personality profiles and interviews, reporters get bylines. When they are published with the reporter's name, it is a kind of recognition for the hard work. It is true that reporters should be careful while presenting straight news, but they should be doubly careful while dealing with articles, features, backgrounders, personality profiles and interviews. An editorial is a pure opinion piece. Editorials are supposed to reflect the opinion of the newspaper. It is also called leading article or leader. Though reporters don't get an opportunity to write editorials that easily, they should know about this form of writing. Editorial is written by the senior editorial staff or publisher of a newspaper. Editorial writing is considered to be very important because it states the newspaper's stand on a particular issue. Basically, it is a persuasive essay that offers a solution to a problem. In Australian and major United States newspapers such as the New York Times and the Boston Globe, editorials are often classified under the heading opinion. Every word in an editorial is considered as sacrosanct because it is dealt by the best brains with an approval from the owner or the chief editor. Typically, a newspaper's editorial board evaluates which issues are important for their readership to know the newspaper's opinion. Neither the inverted pyramid nor the hourglass structure is applied here because it is a pure commentary. Opening remarks, reference to surveys or data, interpretation and conclusion are the four body parts of any editorial. Most of the editorials are below 500 words with a typical structure. However, a newspaper may choose to publish an editorial on the front page sometimes. In most English language press, this is done only rarely and on topics considered especially important. However, it is more common in some European countries such as Italy and France. Now columns. Columns are written for newspapers, magazines, newsletters, and other publications by experts or experienced journalists. They are called columnists. Columns may be published regularly, weekly or fortnightly or monthly. The language in columns is typically less formal and targeted to a specific audience. A column is a recurring piece or article in newspaper or magazine or other publication. Columns are written by columnists. What differentiates a column from other form of journalism is that it meets each of the following three criteria. One, it is a regular feature in a publication. Two, it is personality driven by the author. Three, it explicitly contains an opinion or point of view. Senior journalists and experts of certain fields are chosen to write columns. Columns by famous journalists like T.J.S. George, Tavleen Singh and Rajdeep Sardesai, and economists like C.P. Chandrasekhar and Jayati Ghosh are producing very interesting columns in popular newspapers. Columns typically have a permanent name to go with their photographs. In the newspaper, only columnists have the privilege of publishing their mugshots along with their writings. I named Moot Point for a weekly column I contribute to a Hyderabad-based English newspaper. I have liberties to choose a topic for the week's column. For instance, I paid tributes to one of the finest professors of communication and journalism, Professor Bandi Balaswamy of the historic Usmania University, in one of my columns under the headline, An Ocean of Humanity and Humility. This is to say that there is no bar for the topics a columnist would choose for his column or her column. The word limit is between 1200 to 1400. The thumb rule is not to edit or change the facts without taking the consent of the author. Now, Charticles. There is a new way of communicating information to readers. It is a modern phenomena. It is called alternative story forms or ASF or Charticles. The word Charticles indicate that it is broadly a combination of charts and articles. ASFs are standalone as independent stories with no traditional story to accompany them. Like a standalone photo or graphic, the standalone ASF needs to be a complete story. It is supplemental and convey the story without following inverted pyramid format, for that matter any format. ASFs are a collection of bit-sized nuggets of information and combination of pictures, graphs, text, numbers. The key to a successful ASF is making all those bit-sized nuggets add up to something attractive. They are also called chunky test. Alternative story forms, ASFs, are used to create wow factor to make the components of a big story visually appealing, easy for a quick grasp, easy to understand. Various types of AFTs include timeline, checklist, question and answer, flash like 5Ws and 1H, numbers, comics, cartoons, caricatures, charts, frequently asked questions, FAQs, glossary, quotes, pros and cons, and do's and don'ts. We can't apply any rule related to structure of news reports to ASFs because they are designed with proper care and diligence. Along with journalistic skills, artistic skills, aesthetic sense, and some knowledge of design related software and tool is required to make ASFs attractive and meaningful. So far in this lesson, you have learnt the 9 types of news stories and the structure they should have. Before we conclude the session, you should know about op-eds. An op-ed is abbreviated form to opposite the editorial page, and it is an opinion piece that appears on a page in the newspaper dedicated solely to them, often written by subject matter expert, a person with a unique perspective on an issue, or a regular columnist employed by the paper. Editorials are typically published on a special page dedicated to them called the editorial page, which often also features letters to the editor from members of the public. The page opposite the editorial page is called the op-ed page and frequently contains opinion pieces by writers not directly affiliated with the publication and columnists. Freelancers and ghostwriters also contribute to the op-ed pages. By the way, ghostwriter is the one who writes using someone else's byline. Additionally, public relations firms often write these articles in a bid to take their agenda forward. More than the editorials, op-ed page articles and columns have wide readership because they are produced by experienced professionals and experts. In addition to the retired employees, students appearing for competitive examinations read them attentively. They even preserve them for future references. Some newspapers started allocating space for cartoons and caricatures in op-ed pages. Conclusion: every news story has an invisible structure and different news stories have different structures. In this lesson, we have understood that the inverted pyramid or the hourglass structure cannot be used for all news forms across the board. You have also learned that proper comment oriented pieces, they are totally relevant. You have also learned that op-ed page contains features or columns written by the seasoned professionals or subject experts.